Today's topic is going to be a game about a superhero, or a hero, or however you want to consider him. I'm going to be talking about Batman Arkham Knight today. Now before I start off, Batman as a character means a lot to me. He is a very, very interesting character. The fact that, the kind of contradiction between usually it's the secret identity that's wearing the mask of the superhero. In Batman's case, it's Batman that's wearing the mask of Bruce Wayne. In my opinion, he's acting when he's Bruce Wayne, but he's himself when he's Batman. There's a lot to unravel there. Batman as a character is extremely interesting. He is very relatable because he is mortal, he is human, he doesn't have superpowers, he doesn't have anything, but yet he is highly skilled, and he doesn't need those superpowers to be able to get on the level of his peers, if you will. He is a very interesting character. I love that character so much. He keeps breaking down and re-emerges to the point of you wouldn't believe it. He's always in the dark, and he's in a dark spot at all times, and he could falter and fall into his no killing rule very easily, yet he doesn't. The perfect example of that would be Red Hood, who treads the same path as Batman but couldn't take it and just fell into that. Broke that one rule which they always swore never to break. Now, Red Hood Jason Todd had violent tendencies to begin with, but that's another topic. Long story short, like I said 15 times by now, Batman is an extremely interesting character, but I'm not gonna delve into entirely how interesting he is. As much of a profoundly astounding character as he is, and I love that character so much, I'm not gonna get into that. So I'll give you a quick rundown of the Batman Arkham Knight story. Before we get into that, Batman Arkham Knight is the fourth installation of the Arkham series. We had Batman Arkham Asylum, which was the stepping stone. It's a good game, nothing really against it, but it started off the franchise, so it obviously had a couple problems. Batman Arkham City came after that, and Batman Arkham City was the best Arkham game, and it was considered to be the best superhero game ever made until Spider-Man PS4 came along, and there was that debate that started. Batman Arkham Origins then came afterwards, but it wasn't made by Rocksteady. It was just there as filler until we got Batman Arkham Knight. Origins just existed. It wasn't exactly exceptional. The boss fights were pretty good, but other than that, nothing really worth mentioning. Batman Arkham Knight came along, and it was supposed to be the last Arkham game. We're not sure about that at this point anymore, but it was supposed to be the ending of the Batman Arkham series. That being said, they kind of failed in some ways. The game is a good game. I would 100% recommend people to get it. It's a great game. Definitely worth buying. Pretty good story, fantastic gameplay. It's an Arkham game, aside from one bit, which I'll get into. And I'm gonna start off with talking a bit about the story. And again, spoilers ahead. The game's a bit old now. It's it's not really old. It's 5 or 6 years old at this point. I'm gonna just talk about the story. So again, spoilers. Play it if you haven't. It's a good game. In this game, Batman is kind of trying to stop Scarecrow because he's trying to cover the entirety of Gotham City in fear toxin and turn Gotham City into the city of fear. And he wants to, while doing that, end the legend and the myth of Batman, which I think is a very good motive. Along the way, we meet Arkham Knight, a villain which we've never seen before. He didn't exist in the comics before, and we're not really sure who he is. I mean, halfway through the game, you finally know who he is, and by the time the game reveals who the Arkham Knight is, you better figure it out hours beforehand. And spoilers, the Arkham Knight is actually Jason Todd. But again, it's like when someone tries to throw you a surprise birthday party, but you kind of know it 5 weeks beforehand. Something that follows through from the Arkham City game is that at the end of the Arkham City game, again, spoilers, Joker dies. Before he dies, he was infected, and he sent his infected blood to multiple hospitals to fuck up people. Batman was infected, there was a cure. Joker's dead, and at the beginning of Arkham Knight, you cremate him, and you think that Batman is cured from the infection from Joker. Turns out that's not the case. Batman has an area where he and Robin, Tim Drake, are treating the infected, and there's one empty cell, and Batman's like, well, this one's gonna be here later on, and it's actually Batman. That's the last patient. Throughout the game, Joker appears in Batman's head, and I think that really shows how the developers are scared of leaving Joker behind in a Batman game. They did that in Arkham Origins, and the devs are too scared to make a game about Batman without having Joker in it. Which is dumb, because Batman has a ton of other really cool villains. Long story short, you have this fight in your brain against Joker, and you're like, bye-bye Joker, and you block Joker up in your bat brain. And then Scarecrow has Robin and Jim Gordon captive, and he is like, okay, if you don't want to see your friends die, put your belt on the table, hop in the van, and I'm gonna take you to Arkham Asylum and reveal to the world who Batman is. Batman's like, well, fuck, I gotta do it. Now, one major thing which I hated about this is how the game portrayed Batman as weak and useless without his gadgets, because that's fucking dumb. That's not what Batman is. Batman doesn't rely on his gadgets. It's one of the things that he teaches Robins. Every Robin when she's trained, it's don't rely on your gadgets, merely use them as a tool, but they're not what you should be relying on. Which the game completely shits on here, which is kind of one of my problems about this. Long story short, Scarecrow has you trapped in this Arkham Asylum chair, which, by the way, again, another very stupid thing, because this seems like a very standard Batman 101 situation where you can escape being trapped in a fucking chair, even if it's metal, if it's not roped down. Like, this seems very standard, and don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, Batman can get out of any situation. Not the case at all, but this seems like a very standard situation. And given that Robin's just there and Jim's there as well, it kind of felt stupid Anyway, Scarecrow injects him with the fear toxin multiple times, and at the end, after the whole Joker brain fight thing, Batman isn't affected by the fear toxin anymore, and he was revealed to be Bruce Wayne. He took off his mask in front of a camera. And then Red Hood comes along, shoots one of Batman's clutches. Batman is no longer captured, injects Scarecrow with his own toxin, and the game ends. And Batman's like, well, we prepare Nightfall Protocol. Once you complete the game 100%, or as much as you want to do the Nightfall Protocol, but he fakes or actually dies, not sure about it. The ending post-credits really fucks up with your head, and there's no really clear answer. That's the story. I mean, it has a couple of flaws, but it was an okay story. I don't have anything major against it, apart from what I addressed. Now, gameplay-wise, there's a major flaw. And I mean a major flaw. And that is the Batmobile combat. I hate the Batmobile, how much it was used in this game. And let me explain why that is. In the other Arkham games, fans were like, well, you should implement the Batmobile. And then Rocksteady was like, oh yeah, you know what? You're right. I'm 100% with you. So we're going to use it half of the time in Arkham Knight. I am not exaggerating. It is maybe even more than half of the game is in the Batmobile, which is redundant. It is stupid. It is not what you should have done at all. Like, again, it feeds into the idea that Batman is nothing without his gadgets, which is stupid as fuck. Like, I would have been fine with some of the Batmobile combat, because it is fun combat. I like it, but the amount of times which it was used, it just seemed too much, and it seemed unnecessary. There were some missions which they could have completely removed. Most of them they could have just let go of the Batmobile with. But they really used the Batmobile more than they should have. But, I mean, and what my main problem with it, if the Batmobile was just there as extra missions, I would have been fine with it. But the fact that most of the boss fights used the Batmobile, that's where I draw the fucking line. All of the Arkham Knight boss fights, except for the last one, are Batmobiles. The Deathstroke fight, which I was gonna mention, is a Batmobile fight, which I fucking hate. Arkham Origins was not a superior game at all. It was a weaker game than Arkham Knight, but it had a great boss fight with Deathstroke. Why could you not pull that off in Arkham Knight? They really used the Batmobile more than they should have, in my opinion, obviously. And so many boss fights were just the Batmobile, and I hated that so much. But all in all, it's a very good game. You should definitely pick it up, but those were the major flaws which I found in this game. So yeah, long story short, they used the Batmobile way more than they should have. They made Batman appear as if he really relied on his gadgets, which again is not the case. Jesus. But apart from that, it's a very good game. It's a very enjoyable game. I recently completed the New Game Plus, which was a fucking ass because it uses the highest difficulty where the game does not notify you when an enemy is about to attack, so you gotta guess when you're supposed to counter and whatnot. It was a fun difficulty. But yeah, the game is very enjoyable. Batman is a character which I love to death, and I don't think he was done complete justice in Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight again is a very good game and treated Batman correctly apart from the couple of flaws which I mentioned. And I would just like to give a quick shout out to my brother. I asked him what the character means to him, he gave me his answer, and that really just shout out to you, bro, so thank you for that. And yeah, so thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe if you like my content. Discord's in the description as always. Sharing my content is highly appreciated, so do that if you want to. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. As always, stay safe, peace.